you're watching the Smoking Hot Coffee Show, where every day we talk to startup founders and people from the startup world. I'm joined with...
Hey guys, I'm Jeff Pelton down here in San Diego.
And today we've got Daryl Silver from Thinkful.com. Daryl and his co-founder Dan have put together an amazing company where they teach budding programmers how to actually program, because a lot of people try learning programming, they get stuck, they get discouraged, and he has solved that problem. Jeff, tell us more about Thinkful.
Yeah, this is a really interesting space because I'm in the this is the kind of education that I would have wanted 10 years ago maybe when I was in college, but I think it's really applicable to a lot of people that are sitting at their job or sitting at their desk at home and want to learn how to create stuff on the internet, but don't have the tools necessarily or the education to make that happen.
Yeah, and so many people try. There's lots of tutorials online. There's tons of tutorials, in fact, online, and lots of different sources online. But what I found personally is when you go through this stuff, you end up getting stuck, or something, you misspelled something, you didn't enter things incorrectly, or whatever. You just get stuck, and then that's it. After several of these get stuck moments in a row, you'll get to a roadblock where no matter what you do, you just can't figure it out. And the minute you hit a roadblock, you go searching for forums and you type in a question, and then somebody answers several days later. By then, you've just kind of given up entirely. And I think Thinkful has found that this has been a big thorn in many students' sides. And judging from the referrals that they've been getting, this is one of the key things he mentions is that people have said, "Oh, I got stuck, and I've tried this before, and it wasn't until Thinkful that I was able to get through."
Yeah, especially with technical topics, you hit those roadblocks and it's just all over. And like you said, you go down and try to find an answer online, and you end up debugging. And sometimes it's helpful to go through that process, but more often than not with technology, or as a novice entering something very technical, it could be a missing semicolon or something that a mentor looking over your shoulder might be able to identify immediately without wasting tons and tons of time.
Yeah, so we covered lots of topics. We talked about this problem that they're solving, how they raise some money. We talked about this whole one-on-one mentorship and how to scale that. We talked about the fact that just because it's one-on-one and just because it may not scale to what you would think, that because it's trending right now, education is such a hot space that as long as the product works and the system is producing referrals, that could be the key lever to getting money. So you're going to learn all that in this interview. Please check it out and subscribe to our show on iTunes and through Stitcher. We also welcome any emails that you get that we get at info@smokinghotcoffee.com. Jeff?
Yeah, absolutely, guys. Come check out our website, smokinghotcoffee.com, where you can find all of our episodes. And you can email us and find all the channels that you can subscribe through. We really do appreciate your feedback and letting your friends know about us if you enjoyed this episode.
Daryl, thanks for coming on. Tell us a little about your story, how you guys got together in Thinkful.
Yeah, so Dan Frieden and my co-founder Dan started Thinkful just under a year ago because we realized that there's an incredible capacity to learn online, and there's really very little access to expertise online. So we've built this team of mentors that helps students learn one-on-one way through a fantastic curriculum, through a fantastic small student body to learn engineering skills. Our students are, most of them have full-time jobs, they're a junior in their career, and they're looking for what that next step might be, but they don't have the money to go back to graduate school. So they turn to learning on. It's very lonely. They look for something more than a video or a tutorial, and that's when they come to us.
Gotcha.
That's great.
I love how you're very, very specific with your ideal customer. An adult usually is working, is trying to do this on when he's not working, trying to better themselves, maybe possibly change careers. It's really great that you've really honed in on your ideal prospect. Is this by accident, or have you just found 90% of your students tend to be this person?
No, I mean, one of the core challenges for an early startup, in my view, and we're very much in that phase still, is to picking a focus and sticking with it and iterating and finding more focus. So, to you, when I think about how we're focused on one type of learner and one type of situation, it actually sounds quite broad. I think there's way more specific we can be, and the market is really large, and the number of people that are trying to learn is enormous. So So it's a function of our maturity as a company, which is to say, we're doing some stuff that's proving working really well, and that's fortunate. But it's also we're really really early, and we're still figuring out who that user is and trying to understand them more and more deeply.
Gotcha. So tell us, there's lots of solutions out there for this sort of part-time learner, that wants to possibly change careers. There's the lynda.coms, and there's Code School, Code Academy,
Yeah.
Coursera. Why go into this kind of crowded space?
So there's a few answers in there. A lot of students come from they really start out learning with Code Academy or another free or almost free solution like Treehouse or Lynda, Code School, and these other things that provide really great learning through video, tutorial, and expert, that kind of thing. But what they find, they want more. They get stuck on something small and they have nowhere to turn.
Right.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're not getting they when they want to write a program, they see a blank canvas and they don't know how to fill it in. So there's only so far that a textbook style or a video or an interactive lesson with a computer can take you.
Right.
So they turn to something more in depth, and that's what we provide. The core differentiator of what we're doing, the thing that really that we hear over and over again from hundreds of students that take our courses, are that the mentor really makes the difference for accountability, for feedback, for best practice, for all the intangible things in the kind of long cycle that it takes to learn a complicated skill like engineering. They turn to us and they're finding that feedback is really valuable, that relationship with the mentor is really valuable.
Right. Well, you had mentioned earlier that the one-on-one thing is your big differentiator, and generally speaking, when you're building a startup, you're always looking for a way to scale and offer 1 to 1,000, that crazy leverage. Is there even a way to do this, so one-on-one, and still build a big company?
Yeah, we think there is. We certainly believe that we're building a big business mostly because we see the demand for learners that want to learn efficiently. That's our signal for customer demand is our signal for whether we think we're going to be a success.
Okay.
And the mentor scaling and the mentor team scaling is one of our core competencies. We hiring people just had some job showing that the mentorship is a really rewarding experience. And one of the things that you find as an engineer, and in my background is large engineering, what you find as an engineer is actually really want to teach. They don't want to necessarily do it full time and as a career, but they love the process of apprenticeship. They love having an expert work with them and tell them all the tricks that you need to know to be really efficient and successful, and they love passing that on. So really good engineers are invested in success and the sharing that comes along with it. It's one of the big drivers behind open source software for. That's kind of what a lot of our mentors, they want to see people learn the skills that they themselves and we don't. So yeah, it's a big operational overhead. It's a big team to build. Culture in that team, maintaining a unique experience for the mentor, the student, is really crucial to our success. But we definitely think it's scalable, and we're definitely seeing it so far.
Yeah, web development is definitely a hot space to start. I come from a web development background, and Mool as well. And I think Mool, you've tried some of these courses online, and I think you can relate that the roadblocks really are the impediment to you finishing the course or getting it complete. Is they lay it out in a documentation or on paper, make it look simple. Hey, copy and paste this, but then one slight misstep and you're totally off track. Yeah, and that probably applies to a lot of science and math type.
Yeah, I've tried several of these options, and as soon as you hit a couple of bumps and you get stuck, you leave a message on a forum and you hunt around for lots of other forums, and then you don't get a reply for another day or so, and then sometimes you get a reply that doesn't really make sense, and then that's it, and then you're done.
Yeah.
And you're like, all right, this is hard as it is. I'm done. It's all over.
And it's very demotivating. There's kind of two moments where that, and there's a bit of a natural struggle there, which is good, which is that you want to struggle to learn. You want something hard should be hard.
Right.
That's what helps you remember it.
Right.
And the real
We're getting cut out.
Yeah,
again.
yeah. This is so Daryl. I'm sorry, but unfortunately,
Difference between struggling and running into a brick wall, right? So
okay. Yeah, I'm not. I'm Jeff. I think we're gonna have to either postpone this or. Daryl, can you hear us? Hello. Are you? Is he frozen for you too? Oh, there we go. Okay.
Yeah, there we go. So now just on the new network. Let's see if this is any better.
Okay.
Maybe that'll help.
Oh my God, there was a lot of really great nuggets that you're just like frozen on. But all right, let's see if we can keep going because this is a great topic. I've suffered from this exact problem that you guys are solving here, and so I really want. I feel like this company that you've built is almost directly solving a problem that I've suffered from. So. You had mentioned something about struggling as a mechanism for getting to know the material better, but you don't want to hit a brick wall where the struggle has gotten too strong, where you now just like, okay, I'm going to get off the horse forever. Okay, let's see. All right, Daryl, we have your. Okay.
There you are.
All right, so your audio's.
Might have to unmute yourself again at the top right. I think usually when there's like more than 3 participants in Hangouts, I think it starts doing that when you join. Joins you muted.
Yeah, it's still muted. For our live audience, please bear with us. We're having some technical difficulties today. I
could do this tomorrow.
Here we go.
I could do this tomorrow morning if we want to.
No, okay.
If we want to continue forward.
Okay, I think we're good. Let's keep going.
Yeah, we can hear you now. Let's see how this internet connection goes.
Let's see how this goes.
All right.
Okay. All right, so just to recap for those that are still around, we talked briefly about the struggles that early programmers get. And and you guys are focused on where those bumps become a roadblock, and at that point, where you feel like you can't go any further, this is where the one-on-one mentorship really can give that hand out, the arm out to help those guys get over or gals get over that big roadblock. Am I correct?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. The struggle is an important part of learning. It's what I was saying. The struggle is a really important part of learning, but there's a difference between spending 6 hours stuck on something you think is trivial and being able to get help maybe half an hour in or an hour in to somebody that can just save you in literally a half day of work. That's an important balance that we try to strike with our mentor relationship with the students, and it's what we find is that it dramatically changes it improves motivation for all learners.
Yeah. No, I think you're absolutely right, Jeff. I think these guys are right on the money.
Yeah, totally. Can you tell us a little bit about how, for our audience, how the website interfaces the mentors and the students? Is it just a direct connection? You take it offline via email or phone or that kind of thing, or how does it work?
So the key thing is to make it seamless, and that seamlessness is about the technology, and it's also about the relationship. So for the technology, we're using Google Hangouts. Okay. Thanks, Google, for this webinar and for this session, as well as our community. So we find that students, once they're in the community, really engage with Hangouts and can work one-on-one with mentors. They can do pair sessions, they can do pair programming, they can do it ad hoc. The Hangouts really work well for that. But actually the more important part of connecting with a mentor is that you don't feel like you can ask a question too stupid, that you actually don't feel embarrassed about asking a question that you wouldn't otherwise turn to your friend for, or you would only turn to your friend for. Right. So that relationship with a mentor stays for the duration of your time with Thinkful. It's the same person. It's the same person throughout the entirety of your experience with us.
And you're saying if I had to choose between emailing or forum posting, that sort of stupidity feeling would possibly block me from expressing myself.
Oh, well, no, you can communicate with your mentor any way you like. Chat during the scheduled sessions. Usually the scheduled sessions are done over video chat and screen share. Those are the real addition to communication. It's it's more about once you've got the tools, it's actually more about the relationship being kind of open than it is about whether the tool provides a good video conferencing solution. We've tried Skype, we've tried GoToMeeting, we've tried Google Hangouts, and Google Hangouts is really the thing that's working the best right now.
Oh, that's fantastic.
All right.
I love that. So tell us really briefly just the beginnings of the company. Clearly, the problem you're solving is awesome. I love that you guys are doing that. How did you guys validate the idea? How did you guys take that learning, and then how did you guys approach Peter Thiel? How did that whole thing come about with you and your partner?
Yeah, so when Dan and I started, we did something that I, as an engineer and a guy who's been in this, having a career in technology and for 15 years, I was certain I would never do, which is we started a company and we didn't build any technology. It was embarrassing.
Wow.
And the core argument was we didn't know what we wanted to build yet. We didn't know what we needed to make students successful.
Okay.
So we had a goal, which was that we wanted to educate, we wanted to validate that we could provide 10x or better outcomes for students if we engaged with them one-on-one, if we had great mentors, if we had a great curriculum, and if we had a great community.
Okay.
So in that list of things we needed to test, none of them were complex. None of them were technology. They were all technology enabled, but none of them were technology. We could kind of fake it, basically.
Right.
Sure. For a little while.
Okay.
And that's no longer the case. And now we're making a lot of investments in technology. But fundamentally, at the beginning, we could fake it. So we did.
Gotcha.
We had human-driven process around managing students and managing potential students and charging them and knowing where they were in the curriculum, et cetera, et cetera. But then it was all easy to, when we wanted to change something, all we had to do was change manual process, and that flexibility was really key.
So am I hearing basically spreadsheets and just simply email and just manually doing all this stuff?
Google Spreadsheets were our friend. Google Docs were our friend. Google Docs ran the curriculum until 2 months ago.
Wow.
It was as a student, you would see a really sophisticated looking Google Doc that we had evolved over 4, 5, 6 months.
Right.
And that was the core of the experience is the 3 pillars of our education, and we found we could get by at the beginning. However embarrassing it was, we found we could get by without building those things from scratch using off-the-shelf parts.
I love it, man.
Great.
I love it. And
as a technologist, it's painful to do that, right?
It's
but the
painful
flexibility.
to do it, but it's the most valuable asset I have is actually knowing when not to build technology. It really now I get turned on by telling people don't build. Actually, you don't have to do that right now.
Right.
And actually, it's much harder. What I've noticed is that young engineers want to build, right? Duh.
Yeah.
But it turns out the asset is saying don't bother, don't do that yet. Wait until later. Yeah. And you have to know when to not wait anymore. You have to know when you need to make a deep investment because the problems are exponentially worse if you wait too long. But if you can wait a little bit more, you can at the very beginning you can do really, really well.
Right. And this reminds me of a conversation I had with Jeff when I was putting together a Google Doc for our show, and Jeff was like, Google Docs, I could just build a data model and we'll put together an app and all this other stuff. And I'm like, you know what? This is super fast. Let's just handle it. And it's important to know exactly what you said, even as a technologist, when not to build. And when to validate, when to use off-the-shelf tools, even though they may not be what you'd want to do initially. But if you can, so when did you know you had something that worked, and when did you approach Thiel?
We knew we had something that worked when we could do it a second time without where it became consistent looking, right? And actually, I guess the real answer is we still don't know that it's really working. We still think we're very early. Okay. So when we think about where we're at, we think in terms of it's working now, it's growing, but it's still in the first inning, right? I think we have an insight into how people learn online and how to combine that with a great community and curriculum and how to make this thing kind of start up. But I think we really think there's a lot more, that most of the challenges are ahead. Like it's not actually that it's working. It's this is how it's working right now. Is there a better way to make it work?
Well, okay. What were the key metrics that you saw? What was it? Was it signups? Was it completion percentage?
Yeah, that's a good question. I appreciate that. I'm sort of just not answering the question. The The key metric were two things. One, new student sign up.
Okay.
So friends recommending or students recommending it to friends
the referrals.
is by far the most. The referrals are by far the most important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then hearing the same review from multiple students very early on was very important.
Okay.
So
what was this review? What did they say?
The review was, I've tried this on my own. I needed more help. This was the solution I was looking for.
Yes, that's it. I've tried this on my own, and it didn't work, and this worked. Yeah.
So you hear that once, you think, okay, that's neat. You hear that a second time, you think, okay, that's kind of interesting. When you hear it after, most of your students over and over, and they're telling their friends, that's when you think, okay, there's a little bit of a real thing happening here.
We got
this
something
is actually
here.
not in the market.
Yeah. We got something. You know what? I'd probably want to be one of those guys because I downloaded the Rails tutorial. I don't know how many things I've tried, and after a while, I just kind of gave up on it.
That being said, we're very early, right? It's a mistake to think that process has a sort of bookended. It's not. It's we're in middle of chapter 1. Like it's really an experiment that continues. And I think if you look at the really successful companies in education and beyond, or just in lots of different verticals, lots of different markets, that's how they think. And I think that's an important part of the way I like to think, and I hope we Dan and I try to hire for that kind of a mentality in our team, people that want to be entrepreneurial and want to be future founders. Those are the people that sort of see it the same way we do.
Listen, this is really exciting to me on many levels because we had on somebody yesterday that's built an analytics product, and you'd think, well, holy cow, Google Analytics is free. Are you guys crazy? And obviously they're doing really well, and they simplified some parts that are kind of complicated with Google Analytics, and people are willing to pay for things that are simple or easy or they can actually accomplish. And I look at lynda.com, and I think the last article I read is $100 million a year run rate on revenue there. And so there's plenty of opportunity in the educational space if you're able to niche it out and make it easier and simpler for people.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think if you think about the opportunity in front of people that are in their first job after college or in a new job in a new career after a couple of years, and they're thinking about what comes next, that the list of opportunities they have in front of them for advancement should be longer. I think we're in an economic moment when really there's a lot of pent up excitement about change, about improving your career, and then especially when you talk to people that graduated in 08, 09, and 2010 and to now, and that really opens the door for approachable solutions, right? Things you don't have to quit your job and move to a new city to get into. Things you don't have to spend $100,000 to do, and that drives a lot of excitement in the space. And because of MOOCs, there's a lot of credibility around learning online. It's just like everything else. Doing it online can be better than doing it in person.
Right.
Let me ask just a random question then. Do you get a certification at the end of taking a course with?
You don't. We don't provide certification. We don't expect to be providing certification. It's certification and accreditation is not our MO. I think it's as an early company, as a late company, as a mature company, as an immature company, it's a dangerous promise to be making that we can provide something of value on a piece of paper. The thing that's really interesting about engineering education is that you prove it by doing it, not by showing where you went to school, right? Yeah. I really don't. When I've hired a whole lot of engineers in my day as a 32-year-old. I've hired a whole bunch of engineers in my career, and the thing I care about the least is the decision they made when they were 17 years old and which college to go to, and therefore which one they graduated from.
Right.
We don't do accreditation. We don't do certification because we don't think it matters in this education. We think adult education is about results. It's about ROI for the learner, and it's about what they're able to do with their skills. And that's we like thinking about that, and we like convincing people that they should trust us on those merits, not on the merits of brand. That's it's important to us culturally, and I think it comes across. Hopefully it comes across to the students as well. We think it does.
Cool. Yeah, no, I think that's really important. I'm glad that we got that from you.
Yeah, no, absolutely, man. It's all about what you've built and what you can do. I completely agree. So really briefly, let's get back to earlier when you said, okay, so now that you've found many of your students are coming through, you're getting those referrals, you're knowing that something's working here. At what point, how did you take that information, and then how did you approach Peter, and how did that whole thing happen?
So the funding story is unfortunately not a very exciting one. We banged on a lot of doors. We got a lot of no's. We got a lot of questions about scale. We got a lot of questions about crowded space, and then all the things you guys are talking about. There's no magic to that. There's no magic to that process. It's a pound of pavement kind of process. I will say that Dan's got a natural ability to be impressive on first view, and after working with him for a year, he's an impressive person.
Okay.
And that team makes it really exciting. We had great backers in RRE, and they were the first ones to commit to us, and that made it a lot easier. We had great backers in the folks who were providing this office, Cotidian, and that made it a lot easier.
Oh.
And then Teal is also approachable, right? Founders Fund and Teal and the Teal Network and the Teal Fellowship, which Dan was a part of. Those are all places where they're looking for great talent to invest in and take risk and try out ideas, and that's what we're after.
All right, so Daryl, I know you're like, yeah, pound a lot of doors, hit the pavement. I get that. But we got a lot.
Ask me to be really specific.
I'm gonna a little bit, just a little bit, because we do have a lot of entrepreneurs on the show, watch the show, and we're like, come on, man, we're not gonna let you off that easy. Give us an idea. I mean, was it like every day? Were you guys hitting angel lists or LinkedIn? Give us some tactics that you may want to share and may help our audience if they're looking to raise.
Fair enough. Let me think. I mean, I think going back to what we were thinking then, and the advice that I've found myself giving over the last year or so is you have to fit in to a narrative the VC is thinking about. So I promise I'll give you a more specific answer of our story, but I think the actually more useful piece of what we did was we found investors who were already thinking they wanted to invest in this type of company, right? Okay. Education is a hot space.
Right. It's
not going to be a hot space forever.
Right.
I don't think if we were 10 years earlier that we would have found any investors.
Right.
Good investors have a thesis about the way they think the world is moving and the way they think the world is going to be in a few years.
Right.
They look for companies that fit that portfolio. The difference between an open door and a closed door is not as big as you think it is. It just has to be part of a story they're already thinking about. But to answer your question and to sort of buttonhole me into a more tactical answer, RRE, having that first money really mattered. There was an institutional investor in RRE, and they really put their confidence in Thinkful and in me and Dan.
Right.
It was a relationship that Dan had cultivated for years, and we must have talked to 20 other firms, and that's just the way it goes. 20 is not a big number.
No,
we've heard success stories. Success stories start out with those numbers adding a zero.
Yeah.
There's a lot of randomness, there's a lot of luck, but there's I don't know. I somehow feel like I've answered your question, but actually
no, you did. You're writing a trend.
You'd be convinced.
No, I think you are. You're writing a trend. Education is a big hot thing right now. I completely agree.
I think if I was selling, so the last startup I did was 3 years ago. Actually, I'm more curious. I'm more interested in talking about a failure to fundraise than I am a success, because the success is hard to know what made it successful. The failures are really easy to navigate.
Let's since you brought it up, let's talk about it.
So I worked in finance for 4.5 years. I left finance 6 months or 8 months later. Started this company Perpetually, which, to tell the whole story in one sentence, 3 years later, meaning a year and a half ago, me and my team sold it to a subsidiary of Dell. And so we had this very short life cycle to this independent company. It now lives on very successfully under under a different name and a much bigger parent. And it was a great success story for the first time through for me and for the other folks on the team. Now, in that process of a successful start, of a finding a market, of a selling a product to some phenomenal customers, big enterprise companies would buy this thing, we failed to raise a round of funding because it wasn't on anyone's radar, right? In 2011, let me make sure I got the years right. In 2011, I guess, we were trying to sell a web archiving solution to investors that were thinking about social media. Right? Investors were thinking real time, and we were talking history. Investors were thinking sharing, and we were talking private database.
Okay.
Investors were thinking consumer, and we were trying to sell an enterprise product. There's a number of reasons why what we were doing didn't match a narrative that we found investors for. Right. And the market dictated that's we changed strategy and we made a success, and that was great. We had angel investors that believed in us, and that was a pretty big part of it. But when we tried to raise an institutional round, it was not in the appetite of anyone of the folks we tried to. Right. And that's a story you learn a lot more from, because it's
right.
It took a while, but I don't take it personally.
Right. No, and it's totally
investors are operators, right? They think in terms of
right.
expected return and waves and trends and opportunities.
Exactly. No, and obviously you're riding that trend with Thinkful. Cool. Well, and now that we've got a little bit about the funding story, if you can, maybe using the screen share, we can check out the behind the curtain and see what Thinkful is all about.
Here, how do I do that? Screen share.
Yeah. So on the left there.
I got it here. I can just do this one window.
Exactly.
Great.
Yep.
Cool. So what do you guys see on my screen?
Okay, so we see a new tab, and you're going to thinkful.com.
Perfect. That's where we should go. And I'm already logged in. Okay, cool. So when you log in, and I skip the login step, this is really only part of the experience. I mean, if you take away one thing about Thinkful, it's that so much of the value is in the mentor relationship. But there is a nice UI to look at. There is a great product behind it that guides all the learning, and this is what that product is.
Beautifully designed, by the way.
Thank you very much. This is a mentor view of the curriculum. The student view is basically the same. But this is what you see when you start out. So what you're looking at is an overview of the different units of education. Our front-end web development class, which teaches how to build websites from scratch and all the tools that you use to do it from scratch. That's a key part of it. So Git and JavaScript and jQuery and programming fundamentals and design fundamentals and all the core development tools. That's all included in this unit. When I can sort of browse through it a little bit to show this is unit 1, and it goes through just an introductory. Let's jump into here. It says this introductory piece is just covering the very basics of HTML. The course, this front-end web development course, is really geared around helping beginners from the very, very beginning. People often ask, am I too beginner for this course? No, the course is designed for people just starting out, and we tailor and customize your path through it based on your level of expertise, or as you discover your level of expertise. You can skip ahead or stay behind, and you the whole time stay with a cohort of learners that are just like you. So this particular lesson goes through, and let's say you learn something about how the web works and some basics, and then after you go through a lesson, there's a comprehension check. Comprehension checks are not tests. They're designed to be, did you absorb the topic being discussed? If you think you did, then you should move on. If you think you didn't, you should stay, and you should work on it with your mentor. And this is kind of replicating a bit of what the mentor provides, but this is a little bit of a choose-your-own-adventure style.
Cool.
Yeah.
And
this continues.
And when you do these comprehension checks, are you filling out a form and sending that to your mentor, or is this just your own internal?
No, it's designed to be interactive with the mentor. So keep in mind, every student has a weekly session with their mentor where they go through the projects they've done, the work they've done in those projects, and the comprehension check is designed to sort of to make those meetings more efficient. You shouldn't be surprised when the mentor says, "Did you understand all the different, in this case, pieces of how to do a command line, how to work with the command line? Did you struggle with that?" Gotcha. If you can keep up with the subject at that time, then those sessions can be a lot more efficient, and the mentor can be a lot more guided in what you do spend your time together working on.
And when you're doing these weekly check-ins with your mentor, is there sort of a sort of checklist that the mentor goes through with the student, and are they all following along? Is there like a dashboard for the mentor?
There is, and there's a CRM for the mentor. We track all the sessions. So one of the unique things we do that we can do because we're so involved in each student is we can make sure that we can do both quantitative measures of progress as well as qualitative, right? Best practice is not quantitative, but completing a project is pretty quantitative.
Right.
So we can mix those two together, and the mentors have a CRM, a sort of tracking tool that they use for each student to keep up with it.
That's
now
beautiful.
the mentor's guidance comes mostly from the progress a student is making, and the time that the student has in the coming week. So it's almost like, what did you do last week? How did you get along? How much time are you going to have next week to make more progress? And then we should guide your path through the curriculum to be faster, to be slower, to skip a section, to go back to an old section. And it's about that kind of pointing you in the right direction as you go through that the mentor ends up spending a lot of time on with the student, right? Because the sort of what happens in a MOOC, what happens in a lot of online platforms, and what happens in a traditional classroom is the student has a lecture hall where they receive the information at a rate that is unrelated to how fast they're learning it and how much time they're putting into it. And because we're one-on-one, because the program is month by month, you can go at your own rate, and that go at your own rate thing is something that like more than half the students take advantage of.
Right. I love this. Yeah. This is really great.
Especially early on with some of the introductory stuff, like you mentioned, you don't really have to have any experience coming into it. I think I saw on my social networks a link to your Git how-to. That was like a real visual explanation of how to use Git, which is like a really cumbersome beast in many ways. But really, it's like the first tool that you need to know how to use before you can dive into a lot of coding projects. So it can be like one of these incredible roadblocks or hurdles right away off the gate.
Yeah, this guide is, and I assume you can see that on my screen.
Yep.
Yeah.
This guide is great. It's exactly. I mean, we created it because we saw the need for something that was more that guided you through the process. Git is really complicated. Everyone struggles with it. Talk about needing expertise. It's a great tool that has a steep learning curve. So this guide really helps you walk through the process of creating a GitHub website. GitHub will, and a lot of people don't know about this, GitHub will host your website for you for free and do some great stuff with you. You have to know how to use it, and this guide says, regardless of, given that you're starting at a number of different starting points, let's help you publish a website on GitHub. And it guides through that process. This is an automated way of doing what we try to do with the mentor sessions, which is depending on where you're starting, depending on what your goals are, let's walk you through a step-by-step on learning it.
Daryl, I am just struck by how beautifully designed this stuff is, man.
These pages are really beautiful. The way it goes, like you described the tree, kind of choose your own adventure and skipping ahead, and it does all of that in a visual representation on these guides.
Yeah, we're pretty excited about this. This was a project of 2 interns of ours over the summer, a design intern and a Hack and Y fellow. Hack and Y is a program here in New York for junior software engineers coming out of college or still in college. So yeah, we're really excited about this. It's gotten a great response. It's gotten picked up in a lot of places, and we think we're going to be doing more. We have some others.
Cool. Yeah, we love this kind of content marketing. I mean, this is a really custom, beautiful way of doing it. You see in the bottom right corner, I think, is a little lead into your thinkful.com. Have you found this to actually be effective? You said some sources have picked it up. Has it driven some traffic to you, like akin to like a blog would?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think it's, well, I don't have to think. I mean, I know it's driven a bunch of traffic to us. It's only been out for 3 weeks or something, or 4 weeks, but the response has been really positive, and we get people find out about us through these, and we're doubling down.
That's an awesome resource, because the need for Git is not going to go away either, right? Like you write that guide once, and it's going to be useful for years.
Yeah, we definitely, and you get great. You know what? One of the KPIs with this that I wasn't expecting is the number of people that give you corrections is like such a signal of how popular it is, right? Because if you don't care, if you think it's junk, then you'll ignore it. But if you like it and you want it to be good, you'll write in. You'll spend the time to write in I found a bug, right? Fix this bug. It's so close to being what I want, right?
Right.
And that response is like a really great signal. That's for me as a guy who has that instinct to sort of invest or leave behind these kinds of guides. I think that's a really great it's a great signal for us.
This is a great example of inbound marketing and content marketing. We've talked to many startups during our whole thing with Smoking Hot, and one of the things we've heard time and time again is blogging, content marketing, putting together guides such as this is a huge ROI in terms of inbound traffic and conversions.
Yeah, it can be. You have to test it out. We know we tried. We were blogging for a while on different topics. You test, right? It all goes back to how do you know it's working. It's a never-ending process of figuring out whether something can be working better or whether you can be doing something new altogether.
In your opinion, has this been out of all the customer acquisition, is this one of the big ones, or?
No, I mean word of mouth is still by far the biggest.
Okay.
By far the biggest. The prospective students and current students and former students telling others is that they're getting a lot out of the experience of learning with us is driving just the more growth than anything else we're seeing. I mean and we like that, right?
Oh
Obviously,
yeah.
So
No, that's totally grassroots,
these guides. We are hiring for someone to own this idea.
Okay.
We think we've proven that we can make it work once and twice, and the question is, can we make it work a lot more in the future? And we grew the team from 4 to 8 over the summer, and now we're growing a little bit more. Maybe get to a little bit more than that. So from a numbers perspective, still very small, but doubling. You could say we doubled in size if you wanted to be salesy about it. But yeah, that's where we're at. And we're hiring exactly for this role. This is a great resource. People love the content. The content looks great and teaches well, and therefore let's do a lot more of them.
Gotcha.
Yeah, as a developer, I mean, even as an experienced developer, I'd have to say these are useful resources to me. You're looking at the JavaScript best practices. It's notoriously it's kind of a disgusting language in a lot of ways. People have troubles with certain aspects of it, and it's great to know the gotchas and the things you'll get caught on really quick. Like avoiding globals or certain oh, you mean if I do this, it's gonna break the whole thing. That's good to know ahead of time, or at least have a documentation of it like this.
And the writers of these guides love it, right? They you go to like a slideshow sharing tool, and they don't look great, so they're not engaging. And this engages a lot better. It presents the content much more cleanly and much more readily readable way, and they as a result it works. It gets great engagement, and engagement is kind of where that's obviously what we're in the business of doing. So
yeah.
It's working.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I could see myself bookmarking this kind of page and coming back to it as a reference, whereas like you're saying, like a slideshow or some less beautiful medium, I would be less likely to come back to.
Right, and we like making it all available for free, so we're pretty excited about being able to do that too.
That's cool. Awesome. I love that. Is there any way that you can show us what the Mentor's CRM looks like? Or is that?
I can't actually. I don't have a login to it.
Okay.
It's not too impressive looking, right? It's like something vaguely greater than a Google spreadsheet. Like you're really not going to be terribly impressed with the technology right now.
No problem.
The Mentor team has patience with our technology.
Gotcha.
And they are the backbone of this company. It's a pretty important team of people around the country that are working with us. We only have some of their pictures on our website right now.
Right.
But it's embarrassing, I guess, to go back to a phrase I used earlier about where we're at with technology.
That's all good, man. It sounds like you guys have something that's working, so that's the most important thing, obviously. Yeah.
Thank you.
So give me. We can cut back to you now. I think we get a good idea what's going on.
Oh, cool.
Give us an idea, like what is it? What's the ratio looking like? Is it one mentor per 10 students?
It's so when you start off as a mentor. Hold on. When you start off as a mentor, you start off with like 1 or 2 students, and you start off teaching us something, and that's part of the onboarding, part of the training, part of the interviewing. But ultimately, when you're ready, you start off with 1 or 2 students, and then we have mentors that stay at that level for their time availability, and we have mentors that go 15 students or more,
right.
if they want to take on more.
Wow.
Wow.
What's the sort of commitment and time commitment for the mentors?
There's the sessions with the student, which are between half an hour and an hour a week, and then there's some amount of coordination with us, Google Hangout with us to understand where each student is at with each mentor, plus the CRM time, plus other admin, plus the communicating with the student outside of the office hours, whatever.
Gotcha. What do you think? I mean, I know there's so many other tools out there, the code academies, where you can kind of code in the browser. Do you guys incorporate the code in the browser thing, or?
Yeah. So one of the things the curriculum does, it tells you that you need to be able to find these sources. You're not going to be with Thinkful forever. You need to be able self-sufficient as you learn more. So one of the things the curriculum does, and let me see if I can find a good example, is it sends you to some great resources around the web that have the best ways to learn a particular skill. We send students to Codecademy. We send students to jQuery on Code School. We send students to a lot of great tutorials by the authors of the languages. We like to expose students to the best stuff from around the web to learn because there's a lot of great content out there.
Right.
There's no need to reinvent the wheel, and in fact, when you're learning on your own, which is, Thinkful's only going to last. You might be making that career jump over a 2-year span, but you're only going to be with Thinkful for a piece of that.
Right.
Doing the rest of it, you're going to be doing the majority of it on your own. This helps you get there, helps you understand how to be a self-sufficient learner.
Gotcha. And at this point, is Thinkful? I mean, are you guys profitable at this point? Are you guys still burning through a lot of money? How are the finances looking these days?
We're neither profitable nor burning through a lot of money. We're on a we have a trajectory, and we think we're doing pretty well. And we don't have plans to be profitable in the 2013, but it's certainly looking possible if the growth rate continues.
Wow.
And sorry, it's looking possible in within our 12-month projection.
Gotcha.
If the growth rate continues, obviously, anything could be profitable in infinity. Yeah.
Right. Wow. Well,
so when you guys raise the money, what'd you guys say that you're going to use it for? Is it mainly for the mentors that are you paying, or for some of the technology we talked earlier about, skimping and staying using the Google spreadsheets and whatnot? How much of the funding is used for technology versus the mentors and keeping the lights on?
The vast majority of most of funding goes to the team, right? And that's no different with us. Is that what you mean?
Yeah, I guess so. Like how much you're spending on marketing versus like the technology. We were talking about investing in your website. Not too much being spent on the website, or you're compensating all the mentors, I'm assuming.
Yeah, the mentors are all part of our team, and they have pretty great options and ways to spend their time as much as they have years of experience with an in-demand skill. The marketing budget, I don't think we should need to get into all the details of how we allocate whatever. I mean, it's experimental, right? The key to our growth has been a successful product, and that shouldn't be messed with.
Yeah.
Our education team, we just hired 2 people on our education team this week, in the last 3 weeks.
Okay.
And that's we're pretty excited about the doors that opens up, and for us to experiment more and try more things and be more successful at the things that are working.
Right.
The marketing team, we want to make sure word of mouth growth, like word of mouth, is going to be our driver forever, and
Yeah.
that has to be the way it goes.
No, I love it. I love the fact that you get the word of mouth. Then you really know you've got something. It's no marketing bullshit. It's like these guys helped. That's worked. You want to be a little cautious of people like me, though, right? Because any time I go we still think a lot about our brand. We still think a lot about the credibility we need to instill in the students and in the market. And so it's not like we don't put thought and effort into it. It's just you have to be you got to pick the right spots. So, so in general, how long does a student take to finish your curriculum, and what does it cost to join?
So we have 2 classes right now, and they're each 3 months long. So a student will sign up, and everything's month to month. If you finish in a month, you'd only pay for a month. If you finish in 2 months, you pay for 2 months, and if you finish in 5 months, you pay for 5 months. So they're designed to last. They're designed to take 3. The curriculum that we were just looking at takes about 7 hours a week, and if you put that time in, it will take you about 3 months. We have students who take it faster, we have students who take it slower, students who pause, all that stuff. Right. The Python curriculum, which is our other class, focuses on programming in Python and web development, test-driven development, and some other stuff. Same 3 months, but you want probably more like 10 hours a week. The front-end class is $300 a month, and the Python class is $500 a month.
Gotcha. Wow.
Nice.
It's great. I love it. Well, Daryl, we've had you on for almost an hour here. I know you're a busy guy. Just last couple of questions. Where do you see Thinkful going in the future? What's your vision? I mean, a computer on every desktop was Apple's vision. I mean, what's your thing?
Well, I wish there's a lot of good answers to that. But I think that at core we have an insight into how people should be learning on the web, and that's through expertise when they need it. And we're going to pull that thread for as long as it goes. We think it's a pretty good one, and that's going to lead us. We're going to go deeper in technology. Technology has proven a great driver and a really high demand, and that's bigger than we thought it was going to be. So we'll stay there in the short term. In the medium term, who knows?
Wow. Well, there's a tremendous amount of skills around all kinds of software, so I can see you guys expanding beyond just simply programming.
For sure. I mean, yeah, the core thing is that expert access when you need it. That's sort of center of the business.
Great. And really briefly before we let you go, Google announced with their Hangouts something called Helpful. Did you see that?
Yes, absolutely. I was going to bring it up, but I was like, you guys, it seems like off topic, and you want to go?
No.
Yeah, helpful is.
Yeah, what do you think of that, man?
See where that goes.
Yeah, what do you think?
It seems really neat. I'm excited to see where the uptake is. Right, Google has a reach. Google can basically try the world as an A/B test in 4 days. It's like an exciting opportunity just to see what happens.
Yeah, right.
But it plays exactly into that thesis, right? Expertise delivery on demand is a powerful model.
Yeah.
The web is great at transmitting information. We can now do it real time. Mm-hmm. Let's see what happens. That's the world we're both in.
Yeah, and if you saw the slideshow and looked at the images carefully, they had, I think, a guy that was looking at his phone, and he had a bike behind him, so he's trying to get some help on his bike, and then there was another woman that was a yoga class or something. Another lady was trying to do the cooking. So they've got sort of repair, yoga, and recipes. So that's the three markets they're hitting there.
And I don't think there's many people in the world who can do that kind of reach all at once. Mm-hmm. Google's pretty unique, and it's going to be exciting to see where that sees traction. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, it'll be exciting to see the success, and it'll be exciting to see the failure. It's
Yeah, Jeff, when we both talked about it, Jeff's like, wow, it looks like Google's getting into everything, man. How are we going to be able to compete against Google? And, you guys and other people we've talked to, it seems like just niching it out and just doing it better and moving faster seems like the best way to compete.
Yeah. Google moves pretty fast, so it's pretty interesting.
Yeah.
To watch.
Gotcha. Well, cool.
So great.
If people want to get a hold of you or the company, what's a good general way of doing that?
Well, thinkful.com is our website, thinkful.com. Make sure I got that right. Okay. And then you can definitely reach me, Daryl, at thinkful.com. That's DARRELL. We're here in Flatiron in New York, so if you're in the neighborhood, you can definitely come by as well.
Awesome.
Very cool.
Would love to do that next time I'm in New York. And next time you're in LA, please hit me up.
Absolutely. I was in LA. It was February last year I was in LA, so a year and a half ago.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's been a while.
It's been a while for me too. I've been in New York a couple years ago. But all right, well, it's been really wonderful having you on. Thanks again for being on.
Yeah, thank you guys for the opportunity.
Yeah, thanks for joining us and for revolutionizing education on the internet.
Yeah, absolutely. This is a
we appreciate it.
A very important cause, a very important problem. I'm glad you guys are solving it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Thanks again.